we're going to look at modern rehabilitation methods. Okay, so maybe a little bit back in the day, we used to be in a position where somebody hurt their back, we put them in a corset, we strap them in, we'd leave them till everything fixed. What would actually happen is it would be absolutely terrible for them. All their muscles wouldn't work properly, their core wouldn't hold itself up, and so we've learned a lot from that. Unfortunately, people are still doing the same sort of thing, maybe not in a great big corset that's bolted together, but they're doing it with back straps, with straps that go over their shoulder. People are still getting by using these crutches to try and get them through the day, and definitely try and get them through work. And what they're actually doing is switching everything off. I see it in the gym all the time. People are strapping their back up, and we're in a society now where we just put a band-aid on it and try and move on. And I want to look at some methods that we could use to modernise that a little bit and just have a better outlook on the pain management. Okay, and we're going to try and improve everybody's back. Okay, so the other outcome I want from today is you becoming your own expert in back pain. Okay, so this is going to involve a little bit of taking responsibility for your own health, for understanding how your body feels, for working out what the best system is for you. I'm going to show you what I think the best system is, but you are your best expert on your body. I can watch you exercise, I can tell you what to do, but I need you to feel everything and what's good for you and become in tune with it. So one way I like to get people to do that is by doing a pain diary. Is one of the strategies. So you could write down when you feel pain, and then we can look at what's caused that. But all these little tools, they're all about you becoming an expert in your own back. You researching back pain, looking into it as well, reading up on it, looking at the best doctors out there, reading their stuff. It's even easier than that now. You can just go on YouTube and we can talk about who the best people are there, and becoming an expert and saying, that feels like it might be me, I'll try that strategy, giving it a go. What I do not want is people to give up and be in pain. And I don't think we've got that here, because everybody here has come in committed to looking for a better outcome than they currently have. Okay, so I feel like you're out there pioneers of trying to improve your own back. I just wanted to reiterate that you're responsible for your own health, and so many people are just willing to accept back pain and not do anything about it. And sometimes, in some really bad cases, you don't know what to do, but I guarantee you doing nothing is not the answer. Okay, and that's why we put in the back pain talk. We know people suffer, and we were told to do this back pain talk by people who suffer. Okay, so let's look at back pain in general, and then I'll kind of narrow down where I'm at and what we're going to look at, because obviously we've got genetic factors we can't take into consideration. The genetic things might be scoliosis, lordosis and kyphosis, the different curvatures of the spine that can occur, but these can also occur from lifestyle, so that potentially you could be born with it. Even if you have a genetic disorder, following the system that we're going to go through today is going to help on some level. And the same when we look at generative diseases. Obviously, you need to be pretty open that it's not going to get amazing. You're not going to have results where you can go from 0 to hero and be back firing all cylinders, but what we can give you is management. This isn't called back fix it program, this is called back management. Okay, so for people like that, we're going to have to just take a stance where we try and get it better. So trauma might work like that. Trauma's a massive one. Could be something horrendous like a car crash. You get an injury, because you haven't got a genetic disorder or a degenerative order, you could get back 100%. Or that trauma may have led you in a situation where you constantly need to look after your back. But we're going to give you the protocol of doing that. They're all quite specific cases. Okay, so the talk on the section that I'm going to look at is way more lifestyle factors. So everybody may have something wrong with their back, but let's just look at it from a lifestyle factor, from a being overworked factor, and just general life and what it's going to do. You might be sitting in the car that hurts your back. We'll look at it from that sort of way, because I can speak more generally about it. If I refer to sitting at a desk all day at work, but that will still help all these other factors. We can't cure any of those conditions. So I wanted to just speak more generally about something that we can really get our teeth into and help out. And if you just do those things that will help people with lifestyle factors, you'll probably improve your other issues that you've got in there. Okay, one of the main causes, so if we look at work, you sit there all day and your core will switch off completely, okay? Which means your back muscles in your back are then holding you up. This is one of the main things that aggravates your back all day long and causes most of your problems. It causes muscle tightness and it causes muscle inactivity, which means they don't fire properly and they don't necessarily fire in the right order. Muscles completely switch off. Guess what? If you sit on your bum all day, the glute muscles that make up your bum don't work very well, quite simply. Okay, so we need to look at these as habits that we need to break. We need to move out of getting stuck in one plane of motion. So at the moment, we go to work, drive there, one plane of motion, get up out the car, sit down at a desk, sit in one plane of motion, and we've done nothing but tighten up one area. So if it's sitting down, example, it's the hip flexors, switched off the glutes, switched off the core. Okay, so we need to switch the muscles back on that go around your spine and hold you up, literally like an internal girdle that holds onto your spine. Okay, if we can get those working, you're going to be more comfortable. Doesn't matter what factors you have that have caused your pain on the previous one, we're going to improve it by getting your core going again. Okay, so what I've done is build the pyramid here of the things that are most important at the bottom, the biggest part of the pyramid, building on top of each other, and we're going to work through these factors. Now, if the bottom one is the most important, we need to do the most of it. It makes up the biggest part of our pyramid, okay? And only when we've got that really working well can we add another one on top. Because if you rush back, say you're an athlete, you're just interested in power at the very top of the pyramid, you put it up there. If you haven't built everything back really big, the whole thing's going to come tumbling down. So you be an injured athlete, everything that you've done so far to get going has been fast-tracked because you're nice and strong and you can get over it quickly, like you're racing to get back going, and actually what you're doing is messing something up in the system. You've missed a part of it or you haven't done it to the best of your ability, so everything comes tumbling down. Okay, so we're going to look at these in a little bit more detail. But this will get your core back online. Stability is the bottom one, and the most important. And all we're looking for is a small amount of instability to switch the core on. So nothing scary. We'll look at what exercises we can do, but I assure you, there's nothing scary, and it could be closing your eyes. Okay, that will make you a little bit wobbly, and we can engage the core, and it will feel better. And this is going to work all the muscles around your spine, and we've made stability the first section. It needs to be done first, and it needs to be the biggest section because it's the most important and creates the foundations to our pyramid. Okay. Next we've got on there is flexibility. So these are not just becoming more flexible, like going to yoga. We need to work out what muscles are tight and what muscles are needing to be stretched. But, for example, I train 2 GB basketball players. I don't want to make their hamstrings any more flexible than they need to be because I want them to be a coiled spring so they can jump up and dunk. So we're actually fine-tuning the muscles and the way that the muscles stretch, not just going to yoga and stretching everything. Okay, so a more useful example for you might be sitting at work. The muscles in the front of your pectoral muscles are becoming tight. Okay, does that look familiar? Some people, you're on the mouse, you're on the keyboard, and the muscles in the back are becoming weak and they're becoming loose. So we need to look at building the strength up in the back and stretching the front. Okay, and this section will give us the time to look at it in terms of performance. It may be getting up and down out of a chair, but we need to work on flexibility to get you down to where you need to perform. Performance isn't just athletes. I need people to perform better in their life, on day-to-day life, okay? So I need you to perform better at work. I need you to perform better at going upstairs. There are lots of different outcomes to performance. I don't just mean performing on a football pitch or playing rugby better. I mean you are going to improve your body's performance. And I always say that everybody with a body, everyone with a body is an athlete. Okay, so you need to think more like that. Think more about improving your performance. Think more about building your recovery up. Because if you don't have much to do apart from sit at your desk, there's not much of a reason to try and get better. But I need you to build your flexibility up, improve things, and move better, and improve your day-to-day performance. So, in my analogy of the tight pectoral muscles, we have established that they are weakened, or that they're tight here. Because they're tight, they're actually quite weak. So we need to actually strengthen them. And if we're in here and we do our flexibility program, we stretch this, we get more flexible here. Can you see how this next layer of strengthening, becoming stronger in the back, will give you much better posture? You're going to hold this shape better, and you're going to move a lot better, and you're going to not be in as much pain because you haven't spent the day getting pulled down further and further by these tight muscles. Okay, so we're really going to look at strengthening those. And we look at strength biases as well. So what tends to happen is people get really strong quads and the rest of it falls apart. Okay, and eventually nothing's going to work. So your quads are getting strong, your hip flexors are getting tighter and tighter. So we address that in the flexibility stage. Then we're going to strengthen everything in the back, what we call the posterior chain, the glutes that have been switching off at work, the lower back, which is really weak, the pecs, which are weak, and the muscles in the back that have switched off. We're going to strengthen all of those, and you're going to be able to sit there much stronger. Not just that, but you've built stability, you've built up the flexibility to move really well, so you're not overdoing anything, and then you're going to strengthen everything, become much tougher and more resilient to day-to-day life. Okay. The other thing we're going to do is look at power. So just to give you a brief outline of power, obviously it's performance related, but in this case it's speed times strength. Okay, so it may well be playing volleyball that you're going to become more powerful, but also it's day-to-day life as well, moving up quickly, and you need to be ready for life. Okay, so let's start with recovery on our journey of fixing work before we work up our way through our pyramids. So I need you to become experts, so I need you to test out, if you haven't already, what avenue works for you in terms of recovery. So whether that be going to a chiropractor, physio, osteopath, doing your yoga, or having a massage, sort of other options. Okay, so if you went to the chiropractor, they might click your back into place. You'll go to the chiropractor week after week to try and improve it. They'll click every time you go, they'll click you back in. Hopefully everything gets a little bit straighter each time, and each time they click you, that it stays for longer and longer. Okay, but ultimately, if you haven't built that core that's going to hold those your spine, all your joints together, it's always going to come back out. So although we might need this in the beginning, I don't see it as a long-term strategy to improving health any further than just having a correction and then having another one, and then hopefully you could taper them off. But you'll see, I think training is the best, and it will become more and more evident that you can do that. Same as if you go to the physio or the osteopath, they might be a bit more hands-on. You might have acupuncture, it's going to be relief, it might last a week. Eventually you get better and better, it might last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But if you haven't built strength back up at some stage, all these things are going to come tumbling down again. Okay, we have to build these back up. Same with yoga, is absolutely fantastic, but a yoga teacher will tell you that you have to add strength. They're making you more flexible, you'll be able to reach the floor easier, but ultimately you can't pick something heavy up off the floor, then it's not really functional, useful for day-to-day life, and you're always going to have to be careful. You're going to jump in the car, do a long journey, or work that extra few hours, and you're going to go backwards to where you started from, and it'll be easier to build it back up, but you know, it's amazing for you, but you have to look further than just being flexible. Same with a massage. You're going to go away, get a massage, you're going to feel really good. Maybe it's loosen all the tension out of here, but if you haven't got a strategy in place where you're improving the flexibility on the other side and the strength in the back, these things aren't going to hold for very long, and you can't keep having a massage all the time. You know, especially all these athletes know, they do these endurance sports, you know, that it costs a fortune to have a massage come with them, follow them around the world. What they can do is implement different strategies to make sure these things last. Okay, so obviously I'm biased, but training is the best, and hopefully you're starting to see that because training has all these different aspects that build on top of each other to make a perfect pyramid and to make you really robust at the top, that's why it's the best. And other protocols can work alongside it, but there needs to be a system where you have a structured approach to getting 100%. And if you don't have a system that's going to get you to 100%, what's the point? You know, if you're just sort of relieving it a little bit, we're always aiming to improve it. Okay. So I want to go over the sorts of training that we can do, because I want everybody to be at ease with the idea of coming to the gym, especially my gym. This is not in a commercial setting where you have to go and lift loads of weights or sit on a machine. So the first thing we look at is the big foundations of the stability. You could go away and stand on one leg and practice that. Okay, it's as simple as that. So I've got all the bases covered. I train people with horrendous backs. They can pull their belly button in. They have to sit down, stand up, and day-to-day life. So we practice that in the safest environment possible. Safe being, I'm going to make sure they lift and move correctly, and safe being that everything's structured. So if they were to pick up a 1 kilo weight or a can of beans, I'm going to tell them exactly how to do it. We're going to go through a process, like a habit of how to pick it up, how to tense your core, get ready for it, get it close to you, and we don't even need to do a weight to start with. We can start with an elastic band, and we can start stepping up and down steps. And the number one takeaway for stability is the foot. Okay, so if you've got a bad back, it all just falls apart from the feet, and you've got a really solid arch in your foot, and the Romans knew that arches were the strongest thing. If you go to Rome, you'll see what I mean. They built arches because they're extremely strong. You have that structure in your foot ready to go, and what happens is, through sitting around, not having weight through your feet, the shoes that aren't very good for your feet, that foot collapses, flattens the foot, and then the knee comes in, and then the hip comes round, and the back is having to do all the work to stabilize you. You just don't want to be in a situation where your back is having to accommodate your feet. That these arches are extremely strong. We need to make sure that the bones in there are stable, and that they've built some strength back into them, and that you can use your big toe to hold you up. Because the other thing that your foot will do, and by using your arch, will switch your glutes on. And as I mentioned earlier, you're sitting down all day, your glutes will turn off. Okay, so we can switch the glutes back on by using your feet, avoid the knee diving in, okay, and then you've got this structure now. We're working on stability, that you are strong getting up and down, you're strong stepping up a step. We're improving your performance in day-to-day life. Okay, the next thing that we're going to work on is flexibility, but not just that, not just stretching. We're going to make your joints more mobile. So you might have really tight bones in the feet that make it not work very well. We're going to mobilize those joints, move them around a little bit, and get some movement back into those so they're not just so stiff. Also, with flexibility, it's fine-tuning. I'm not going to send someone off to go and do a run and tell them to stretch before they run, because they're stretching the muscle and then it loses its elasticity. So I'm not just saying, let's go and get flexible, let's all go and do yoga, we're all going to do this. I'm saying, this muscle's tight, we're going to stretch this one. The hips are tight, let's go and stretch the hips specifically. I'm targeting very specific areas that I want to work. Okay, and the other thing that I want to introduce at this stage is fascia, which is like a fishing net that goes all the way over all of our muscles. Okay, for hundreds of years we've been taking body parts, our bodies apart, having a good look at them, cutting through the fascia because it's boring, and getting the fun muscles that pull and move things. Okay, but actually you've got this huge spider web that goes all the way over you, and we can improve flexibility by finding the knots in the fascia and releasing them. Okay, really improving them. So my little example would be if I worked on my mouse all day, moving it around, eventually I would create a knot in my fascia that looked like my t-shirt was bundled up. Okay, like that, really, really tight little knot. So you don't notice it if you're just standing around. You don't notice that you're getting that at work, and then suddenly you want to lift your arm over your head, and this is stopping you. This one looks absolutely fine. This one doesn't work. So what we can do is start working on these specific areas, massaging them out. So you can use massage, like we mentioned before, as a protocol to try and improve it, but ultimately that'll be a system that you use to get you back to square one, like basics, but it's going to tighten up again. So we need to have different little tactics in our toolbox that we can just pull out whenever we need to and fix something like that, especially if you've got a big project on at work and you need, your shoulder's giving you loads of jip, you've got a headache going up your neck, you need to know how to relieve those things. So hopefully you're seeing how this is all a little bit bigger than just having one strategy. It's a system that we do, and if the system falls apart, you're going back to the bottom, build it back up. So you've always got this now. The same thing with strength, okay, as a flexibility. So we've used flexibility, we've identified what muscles are tight and what muscles are weak, and then we're going to go about fixing them. Okay, so we're not just going to go in there and exercise and mop you up off the floor and get your heart rate up, through the roof. What we're actually going to do is train you in specific movement patterns in specific areas that you need to address. So you might have weak glutes, so we're going to do nothing but work the glutes until they're strong enough for you to do a sit down and stand up with perfect technique. Once you can do that, you already have the stability, you already have the flexibility to get there. Then we're going to strengthen it up and we're going to add tiny amounts of weight to improve it, little bit. We're going to make a note of the weight you did last time. We're going to put it up a tiny bit, it might be 2%, but we'll be very specific, and we'll adjust for how the week's been, how much pain you're in. We could either maintain, go back down a tiny bit, or work on the flexibility or the stability, or we could push the weight up a tiny little bit. Okay, we'll address all these strength biases. You might have a complete lean over to your right side because you're right side dominant, right-handed, want to do everything on your right, and you might sit down and ease over to one way, and that might be because of the stability, the flexibility, but we will address this at those stages. Hopefully it'll improve by the time you're doing your sit down, or like sit down, stand up, like squats. But if it's not, we're going to work on the strength and we're going to improve. We can break it down and improve each bit at a time. Or, I've got cramp. How ironic. Oh, that's hilarious. It's a long day. Okay. Progressively overload the muscles, which I regularly do. Right. So that's building the small plates up. And if you've been to my gym, you know I've got micro plates and we use tiny little adjustments. Okay, so that's strength, but also strength biases that we've got that we need to work on. Okay, and then finally we have being bulletproof, being as strong as possible, ready for life. A great analogy for this would be if you're looking after a 5-year-old with your child, grandchild or something, they're just going to run at you, jump into your arms, and you need to be ready for life because they do not care. And if you're not ready, it's going to hurt your back. And if you are ready for it, you can brace your core. You know what to do with a heavy weight. You've lifted up a weight that might be a tiny fraction of that, but you've done it enough times that you've built some robustness into there. And if you've gone a long way through this pyramid, then you've probably lifted up a weight that's heavier. and you're going to be ready for it. You're going to brace at the right time. Everything's going to work faster because your performance is improved because of going to the gym. Okay? So just to go over some other treatment methods for pain, obviously we can look at tablets. So everyone's favourite is going to be Nurofen, and basically with that, obviously long term it's not going to be very good for your gut. We've already seen that. If you need to take it, go and take it. But very similarly to ice, if you take Nurofen to reduce swelling, you are blocking the signal, the IGF-1 signal, to your body to start fixing it and recovering the body. So you might be dealing with the swelling, but the swelling comes because it wants to recover. So if you're a football player in a tournament and you need to play the next day, taking Nurofen will be good, icing it will be good, but you've stopped recovery so that you can play the next day. But when you finish your tournament, you need to not ice it or not take ibuprofen and let your body recover. So there's no point hopping in the ice bath if it's time to recover from training, okay, or recover from a game so you can play it in a week, okay. Very similarly to strong opioids, don't want anybody coming in dosed up with opioids, because I want you to be the expert in your body and how you feel, and I don't want that masked by tablets that you've taken, and then you feel fine and dandy in the gym and you tell me everything's lovely, and the next day you're absolutely ruined because we've done too much, and then I'm responsible, and all because you've masked how you were actually feeling, and I don't want to be in that situation, and I want to have really good rapport. I trust people. I want you to be an expert in your body and how you feel, and we can't get that without that. I have a really clear rate of perceived exertion with my clients on a scale of 1 to 10, how they're feeling. 10 meaning I'm going to lay down now and pass out, 1 being I'm doing nothing, I can fall asleep, and we always stick to that. And people let me know. Sometimes just I'm fine or it's okay, it doesn't cut it. I want a numerical value that we work to, which kind of works to as kind of percentage. So in terms of the treatment, the old ones are the best. If your back's playing you up, your muscles are tight, go and soak them in a hot bath, relax them, go and get in a sauna, ease the tension out of it. Also, it's got loads of other benefits mentally as well, so go and get those. Also, stay hydrated. You need to stay hydrated. It's so important. If you go and have hip surgery now, back surgery, they will tell you not to drink alcohol, okay? Because alcohol dehydrates you, and the last thing you want to do is dehydrate a joint. And it's the same for your spine. You need the water in your body, and it needs to absorb it all and use it as buffer to everything, even in your feet. Bodybuilders go without water for a few days before their competitions. It's like walking on glass. You need the water in your system. Stay hydrated. Gels, obviously, they seem to be quite good now. The ibuprofen gels that you can rub on, and then you're not already taking it. I think we're moving away from the tablets, so you can use those. The heat sprays, the deep heat, no scientific background, but I quite like them. I've used them for a long time. They seem fine to me, but there's no research to say that they're actually effective. So that's probably placebo effect, or it just feels nice. The ice ones actually do have a bit more research. So if you're umming and ahhing, probably go for the ice spray. Same protocols as the tablets and the recovery though. And probably one of the most important things, and this isn't a nutrition talk, but don't eat foods that are inflammatory. If you've got an injury that inflames, you are eating inflammatory foods, which is inflammatory to the gut, which moves around your body and will go to the area of inflammation and make it worse and make it more painful, aggravate that area, okay? So you need to be responsible for the foods that you're eating as well, and just think twice. The same as if you had a food allergy, you wouldn't be eating that food. If you're lactose intolerant, don't go out drinking loads of milk. There are foods that you will be intolerant to because of the inflammation, which will make it worse. Use the pain diary again. Work out what you've eaten that made it worse the next day. Maybe it's movement, but maybe you've eaten something, you've drunk loads of fizzy drink, and you have an inflammatory response to those foods or drinks. So make sure you check those. I've had clients that I've told this to that went full vegan and had mega results from I'm going to have surgery, I can't cope anymore, I can't sleep, to it's absolutely fine. Obviously it hurts when I do this because we know there's a tear there, but there's no inflammation, so that it's actually not horrendous. Just got to make sure you don't do anything stupid to catch the tear. What a life changer, that you can go from thinking you're having to go down this road of surgery and you're in a really bad place for months on end, we're talking, to actually if I stay off inflammatory food, I don't drink beer, everything's hunky-dory. So give that a try. I need to go over the nervous system and how that works with everybody, because that is how you are receiving the signals of pain. One of the main ones is the brachial plexus, going through there underneath your collarbone. You will know about this if you've slept on your arm funny and you've woken up and you've got a dead arm. So you will automatically know about the brachial plexus and how that works. It happens very commonly in your hand because the gap is very, very small to get through, for the nerves to go through. Strategies of fixing it would be some simple nerve flossing. If anyone's struggling with this, I can send you over a video for that. We need to get hold of any knots so you've got this shoulder that's rotated forwards. We can massage that out, get rid of any knots that are in there that are touching the nerves, and we can open you up a little bit and make more room for these nerves to go down, and everything will smooth out. Okay, so that's the one, that's the big one up here, and obviously there's a big one in your hip, and if you've got sciatica, that is much worse because the gap is really big for the nerve, but you've done something quite serious to squash it. Okay, so you need to have a look at loosening off the hip flexors. You may have compressed the disc. What else could we have? You might have sat down all day and squashed the nerve, sitting down in this position all the time, and just slouching your hips, going into that lordosis curvature that we talked about already. All those nerves attached to the lower lumbar, all the way around there, and you might be aggravating those. And the gap is very big, and you've got a real big knot in there that you're pressing, and you would definitely need to get that sorted. Okay, and I've popped in a X-ray of one of my clients' spines that's completely ruined. I did that on purpose so that you could see because it's really obvious. Basically, on the slide there, we've got someone whose disc is completely degenerated, fallen apart, completely broken. The processes come off the back of the spine. It's destroyed. His back is horrendous, but the protocols for looking after it are exactly the same. As soon as we get that diagnosis, we knew he needed to go and have surgery, put scaffolding in his back, but the process is exactly the same for someone whose back is as bad as that. Okay, so you're going to look at the stability, we're going to look at flexibility to make sure he can still move, we're going to strengthen the core so that he can hold all these muscles. Eventually, we're going to work that process all the way through to his full recovery and going back to playing golf, where we add the power and how we're going to prepare for that. But I just wanted to show you, even in a really bad case, it's exactly the same procedure all the way through. Doesn't matter what the scale is. Also, to build on what Byron said earlier in his talk about what presents itself in an MRI, you've got a situation where someone could look at your MRI of your back and it could be absolutely horrendous, but they are scars and they cause you no pain whatsoever. You could have a back that looks brand new, which is horrendously painful. Then no one's going to help you. What are the NHS going to do? Just open you up and just have a look because you said it was sore. You're in a very difficult situation. But what we can do is get a doctor to look at these, discuss with you what they think, and then using movement patterns and how you should work, how you should move, we can work out whether those are old scars that need operating on or brand new wounds that have opened, that have just happened, that need fixing. Okay, so that's quite important there. That is everything for today. I would love to open this up to questions. and comments, and I'll get back to everybody. It'd be really interesting to hear what people have got. If there's anything I've missed out, if there's any like diagnoses you've had, if there's any MRIs you want us to have a look at, whatever it is, I love this stuff. I'm a proper geek, and I love training, and I love helping people improve their back, whatever level they're at, whether they're an athlete or whether they need to get up a step. I want to help people perform better. All right, thanks very much.